Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Why has silver been underperforming? A vexing question indeed, and very open-ended, because some people will say, well, it's not underperforming, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. In fact, you've even heard me say that. But there are times where it does underperform, and the question is what is it underperforming compared to what? Is it the dollar, gold, etc.? We'll explore that. And what are some of the reasons behind silver kind of being left behind in terms of the precious metals? So we're going to explore that and take a look at some of the fundamentals of silver. And I think that's really a part of the aspect of understanding how it's changed over the years. Silver really has changed as far as its use, as far as its purpose. It's probably one of the least understood metals out there. And it does evoke a lot of emotion. And that's a word you've heard me use before, because economics in general and what happens with different economic cycles is an emotional roller coaster at times. And I don't think silver or even gold are immune from that aspect. So I think that's something to kind of consider as we discuss why silver is underperformed and some of the reasons behind it. You know, silver has been used in history and has touched the hands of all of us throughout history since around 700 BC, maybe even before in some aspects. You know, it has been used in art, it has been used for medicinal purposes for centuries. But I think one of the biggest common elements that we have seen with silver that has been consistent throughout history for the longest period of time, that has lasted through empires and epochs, nations, tribes, and that is silver's use as money. And naysayers will say, well, silver's not money anymore, but I would beg to differ with them. Actually, I won't even beg, I will just differ with them, because silver is still money. Now, you've heard others in the community, in fact, Small Gold has mentioned that it is dormant money, but nonetheless, it still is money. And being dormant just means it's asleep for now. But there will be a time when silver will, and in fact, most mints around the world still mint coins, and this has a denomination on it now, albeit it is much less than the value of the precious metal therein, but it is money. And that is what governments do, you know, or empires, what have you. They want to, if the metal content is above, they want to make sure they get their price back, you know, so they're not losing out. Although most people will say today, you know, that even the 5-cent piece and the 1-cent piece here in the United States probably cost almost as much or just as much or maybe even a little bit more than the content therein. But regardless, this metal, silver especially, has been used more consistently, and really up until the 1960s around the world, many nations had the metal in their coins. And there was a small period of time where there was some debasement, and then a period of time where it was just taken out altogether. But since that time, well, silver's price has gone up above the denominations from which they were represented, and has continued to accelerate in price. But there was also a period of time where it kind of subsided. Many times during the mid-90s, it kind of stayed level at pretty much at one price. It fluctuated a bit here and there. And but its use in industry has also changed. You know, silver was greatly used in photography for a long time. And when that industry changed, well, it became more diverse in use in industry. And so it became much more of a commodity at that point. You know, it's used in jewelry, it's used in industry, and it's widespread use, and especially with the tech age in the 1990s and growing up in many different devices where silver has been used as that conduit It is the best conductor of electricity of the natural elements out there. And so it's been used a lot in those areas. And the price of which and the availability of silver as such that it is, yes, a precious metal, but it is the most abundant of precious metals. Therefore, it's kind of stuck in a lull. It's one of those things where it's abundant enough, but yet rare enough that demand versus supply, sometimes they may not affect each other as terms of being reflective in the price. And that is a very strange place to be because copper doesn't experience that and gold doesn't experience that. There's a lot of copper out there. And in fact, it's priced by the pound, not by the ounce. Gold is much rarer than silver. And it is essentially hoarded. It does have some medicinal purposes. It does have some industrial purposes. It's obviously used in technology, but far less so than silver because it's not abundant enough. And really, silver does a much better job in most every instant, except for in areas where corrosion or tarnishing can be a factor, because gold is an inert metal, so it's got to be used in those circumstances, those conditions. And so because of the industrial aspect of silver and its use and its commodity factors, well, that means that it is far more affected by as a commodity in this case than as money. You've seen a recent video where I showed a chart that showed, how all these other commodities are going down in price, while silver is suffering. So it's being pulled by those factors as a commodity more so than gold is, obviously, which means that the ratio between gold to silver will increase, or it has been increasing. Many people think it will tighten back up again, and silver's true value will be realized. But what is its true value? Will it ever come to a point where people recognize it as money anymore, as an exchange? We don't think gold or silver themselves, the metals themselves, will probably never really be used as a currency as long as we keep progressing into the digital age. In fact, probably dollar bills and cash will become a thing of the past. You've heard the term cashless society, and it usually invokes fear of Armageddon or of coming apocalypse or the coming of the end of the age. But we're much closer to that. It's become much much more of a reality that is set in. A lot of people are accepting than ever before. But these metals do provide the backing, and they will never go away. And I don't think that no matter what happens with silver as being that commodity, that it will ever be neglected as money, because it is still rare enough as that precious metal. But that is because of some of the things with the economic situation and how emotional economic factors and how cycles can occur. I believe that's going to have an effect on silver prices, and I think that's why they're underperforming. And you have to think of the global market as well. You have China's economy, and what's in the news now about the GDP and how these numbers play out and trade and what could happen with China and other large producers and consumers as well of these products that silver is contained within. A lot of different factors out there. And because of that, that's going to have an effect on price one way or the other. And so therefore, if we see the ratio tighten up between gold and silver, we're going to see it tighten up mainly because of the demand, increase in demand, which could cause the supply to go up. And that would be because of it as a commodity as opposed to it as money. And by the way, the commodity aspect of it, how does that translate into things from what you see here? Precious metals, bullion, silver and gold. Well, silver bullion, is on the rise as of recently, but it is not up to the levels where it was a few years ago. But will that change? Could that change? How much of a change will it take for the increase in demand for bullion bars and rounds and coins to make a difference in the price? And that's the thing that has to be considered. And that is why I feel it is important that we in this community continue to educate and inform folks about silver, especially silver, because it is so unique as a commodity and as money. And so I believe the more people that hold it, the better it is, for sure. And they hold it, but they have to understand it as well. They have to understand that it is cheap right now, but who knows? Who knows if it's cheap in regards to where its price potential could be, or if it could go down in the coming year or two. We'll see. But in the end, in the very long term, and as of the recording of this video, it is actually under priced based off of inflation to what it really should be. But there's going to be times where that happens. There's going to be times when this metal will underperform, and there will be times when it overperforms. And that's exactly what happened in 1980 and in 2011, for very different reasons, by the way. And, when you have increased demand, like what happened in 2011, well, you're going to see the price go up. And some of that price movement can be almost, in a sense, artificial or based off of hype. And you don't really want to purchase anything out of hype or pressure, or you want to do it for the right reasons, and you want to do it calmly and knowing that what you're having is going to at least hold its intrinsic value and its spot price value. So there you have it. Some of the real reasons why silver is underperforming, and who knows, maybe in time it will come back to a point where it will close that ratio between gold and silver, but I believe that time is probably a ways off. And I also think that time when it does come back to close the ratio between gold and silver, it will probably occur based off of the commodity aspects of silver's performance and how it's seen in the marketplace, as opposed to it being seen as money or bullion, or as what is commonly known in that side as the investment side, which I don't like to use that word with relation to precious metals because I don't see them as investments. So post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to y'all for watching and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.